Hello, squirrel listeners. I'm finally back. What the bell saw and said, which is the last one of the. Sorry about the crazy light pulsing. It's probably the candle, and I don't know. And I forgot to turn on the overhead light. This is the last one of Louisa May Alcott's little short Christmas stories that are in this collection. So I'm gonna have to find something else after this one. What the bell saw and said. Bells ring others to church, but go not in themselves. That's in quotes. No one saw the spirits of the bells up there in the old steeple at midnight on Christmas Eve. 6 quaint figures, each wrapped in a shadowy cloak and wearing a bell-shaped cap. All were gray-headed, for they were among the oldest bell spirits of the city, and the light of other days shone in their thoughtful eyes. Silently they sat, looking down on the snow-covered roofs, glittering in the moonlight, and the quiet streets deserted by all but the watchmen on their chilly rounds, and such poor souls as wandered shelterless in the winter night. Presently one of the spirits said, in a tone which, low as it was, filled the belfry with reverberating echoes, "Well, brothers, are your reports ready of the year that now lies dying?" So I guess these are the bells. All bowed their heads, and one of the oldest answered in a sonorous voice, "My report isn't all I could wish. You know, I look down on the commercial part of our city and have fine opportunities for seeing what goes on there. It's my business to watch the businessmen, and upon my word I'm hardly ashamed of them sometimes. During the war they did nobly, giving their time and money, their sons and selves to do good cause, and I was proud of them. But now too many of them have fallen back into the old ways, and their motto seems to be, everyone for himself, and the devil take the hindmost. Cheating, lying, and stealing are hard words, and I don't mean to apply them to all who swarm about below there like ants on an anthill. They have other names for these things, but I'm old-fashioned and use plain words. There's a deal too much dishonesty in the world, and business seems to have become a game of hazard in which luck, not labor, wins the prize. When I was young, men were years making moderate fortunes, and were satisfied with them. They built them on sure foundations, knew how to enjoy them while they lived, and to leave a good name behind them when they died. Sorry. Now it's anything for money. Health, happiness, honor, life itself are flung down on that great gaming table, and they forget everything else in the excitement of success or the desperation of defeat. Nobody seems satisfied either, for those who win have little time to taste, to enjoy their prosperity, and those who lose have little courage or patience to support them in adversity. They don't even fail as they used to. In my day, when a merchant found himself embarrassed, he didn't ruin others in order to save himself, but honestly confessed the truth, gave up everything, and began again. But nowadays, after all manner of dishonorable shifts, there comes a grand crash. Many suffer, but by some hocus pocus the merchant saves enough to retire upon and live comfortably here or abroad. It's very evident that honor and honesty don't mean now what they used to mean in the days of old May, Higginson, and Lawrence. They preach below here, and very well too sometimes, for I often slide down the rope to peep and listen during service, but bless you, they don't seem to lay either sermon, psalm, or prayer to heart, for while the minister is doing his best, the congregation, tired with the breathless hurry of the week, sleep peacefully, calculate their chances for the morrow, or wonder which of their neighbors will lose or win in the great game. Don't tell me, I've seen them do it, and if I dared, I'd have startled every soul of them with a rousing peal. Ah, they don't dream whose eye is on them. They never guess what secrets the telegraph wires tell as the messages fly by. And little know what a report I give to the winds of heaven as I ring out above them morning, noon, and night. And the old spirit shook his head till the tassel on his cap jangled like a little bell. There are some, however, whom I love and honor, he said in a benignant tone, who honestly earn their bread, who deserve all the success that comes to them, and always keep a warm corner in their noble hearts for those less blessed than they. These are the men who serve the city in times of peace, save it in times of war, deserve the highest honors in its gift, and leave behind them a record that keeps their memories green. For such a one we lately told a knell, Knell, my brothers, and as our united voices pealed over the city in all grateful hearts, sweeter, more solemn than any other chime, rung the words that made him so beloved. Treat our dead boys tenderly and send them home to me. He ceased, and all the spirits reverently uncovered their gray heads as a strain of music floated up from the sleeping city and died among the stars. Like yours, my report is not satisfactory in all respects, began the second spirit, who wore a very pointed cap and a finely ornamented cloak. But though his dress was fresh and youthful, his face was old, and he had nodded several times during his brother's speech. My greatest affliction during the past year has been the terrible extravagance which prevails. My post, as you know, is at the court end of the city, and I see all the fashionable vices and follies. It's a marvel to me how so many of these immortal creatures with such opportunities for usefulness, self-improvement, and genuine happiness can be content to go round and round in one narrow circle of unprofitable and unsatisfactory pursuits. I do my best to warn them. Sunday after Sunday I chime in their ears the beautiful old hymns that sweetly chide or cheer the hearts that truly listen and believe. Sunday after Sunday I look down on them as they pass in, hoping to see that my words have not fallen upon deaf ears. And Sunday after Sunday they listen to words that should teach them much, yet seem to go by them like the wind. They're told to love their neighbor, yet too many hate him because he possesses more of this world's goods or honors than they. They're told that a rich man cannot enter the kingdom of heaven, yet they go on laying up perishable wealth, and though often warned that moth and rust will corrupt, they fail to believe it till the worm that destroys enters and mars their own chapel of ease. Being a spirit, I see below external splendor, and find much poverty of heart and soul under the velvet and ermine which should cover rich and royal natures. Our city saints walk abroad in threadbare suits, and under quiet bonnets shine the eyes that make sunshine in the shady places. Often as I watch the glittering procession passing to and fro below me, I wonder if, with all our progress, there is today as much real piety as in times when our fathers, poorly clad, with weapon in one hand and Bible in the other, came weary distances to worship in the wilderness with fervent faith unquenched by danger, suffering, and solitude. Yet in spite of my fault-finding, I love my children, as I call them, for all are not butterflies. Many find wealth no temptation to forgetfulness of duty or hardness of heart. Many give freely of their abundance, pity the poor, comfort the afflicted, and make our city loved and honored, in other lands as in our own. They have their cares, losses, and heartaches as well as the poor. It isn't all sunshine with them, and they learn, poor souls, that, in quotations, into each life some rain must fall, some days must be dark and dreary. But I've hopes of them, and lately they have had a teacher so genial so gifted, so well beloved that all who listen to him must be better for the lessons of charity, goodwill, and cheerfulness which he brings home to them by the magic of tears and smiles. We know him, we love him, we always remember him as the year comes round, and the blithest song our brazen tongues utter is a Christmas carol to the Father of the chimes. As the Spirit spoke, his voice grew cheery, his old face shone, and in a burst of hearty enthusiasm, he flung up his cap and cheered like a boy. So did the others, and as the fairy shout echoed through the belfry, a troop of shadowy figures with faces lovely or grotesque, tragical or gay, sailed by on the wings of the wintry wind and waved their hands to the spirits of the bells. As the excitement subsided and the spirits reseated themselves, looking 10 years younger for that burst, another spoke. A venerable brother in a dingy mantle, with a tuneful voice and eyes that seemed to have grown sad with looking on much misery. He loves the poor, the man we just hurrahed for, and he makes others love and remember them, bless him. Said the Spirit, I hope he'll touch the hearts of those who listen to him here, and beguile them to open their hands to my unhappy children over yonder. If I could set some of the forlorn souls in my parish beside the happier creatures who weep over imaginary woes as they are painted by his eloquent lips, that brilliant scene would be better than any sermon. Day and night I look down on lives as full of sins, self-sacrifice, and suffering as any in those famous books. Day and night I try to comfort the poor by my cheery voice, and to make their wants known by proclaiming them with all my might. But people seem to be so intent on business, pleasure, or home duties that they have no time to hear and answer my appeal. There's a deal of charity in this good city, and when the people do wake up, they work with a will. But I can't help thinking that if some of the money lavished on luxuries was spent on necessaries for the poor, there would be fewer tragedies like that which ended yesterday. It's a short story, easy to tell, though long and hard to live. Listen to it. Down yonder in the garret of one of the squalid houses at the foot of my tower, a little girl has lived for a year, fighting silently and single-handed, a good fight against poverty and sin. I saw her when she first came, a hopeful, cheerful, brave-hearted little soul, alone, yet not afraid. She used to sit all day sewing at her window, and her lamp burnt far into the night, for she was very poor, and all she earned would barely give her food and shelter. I watched her feed the doves, who seemed to be her only friends. She never forgot them, and daily gave them the few crumbs that fell from her meager table. But there was no kind hand to feed and foster the little human dove, and so she starved. For a while she worked bravely, but the poor $3 a week would not clothe and feed and warm her, though the things her busy fingers made sold for enough to keep her comfortably if she had received it. I saw the pretty color fade from her cheeks. Her eyes grew hollow, her voice lost its cheery ring, her step its elasticity, and her face began to wear the haggard, anxious look that made its youth doubly pathetic. Her poor little gowns grew shabby, her shawl so thin she shivered when the pitiless wind smote her, and her feet were almost bare. Rain and snow beat on the patient little figure going to and fro, each morning with hope and courage faintly shining, each evening with the shadow of despair gathering darker around her. It was a hard time for all, desperately hard for her, and in her poverty sin and pleasure tempted her. She resisted, but as another bitter winter came, she feared that in her misery she might yield, for body and soul were weakened now by the long struggle. She knew not where to turn for help. There seemed to be no place for her, At any safe and happy fireside, life's hard aspect daunted her, and she turned to death, saying confidingly, "Take me while I'm innocent and not afraid to go." I saw it all. I saw how she sold everything that would bring money and paid her little debts to the utmost penny, how she set her poor room in order for the last time, how she tenderly bade the doves goodbye and lay down on her bed to die. At 9 o'clock last night, as my bell rang over the city, I tried to tell what was going on in the garret, where the light was dying out so fast. I cried to them with all my strength, "Kind souls below there, a fellow creature is perishing for lack of charity. Oh, help her before it's too late. Mothers with little daughters on your knees, stretch out your hands and take her in. Happy women in the safe shelter of home, think of her desolation. Rich men who grind the faces of the poor, remember that the soul will one day be required of you. Dear Lord, let not this little sparrow fall to the ground. Help Christian men and women in the name of Him whose birthday blessed the world." And I'm going to stop there. So I got this little tickling in my voice, in my throat. I think it's from riding around with the windows down a little bit on each side. That's all it takes with stuff blooming and allergies. I love y'all. I'll read some more hopefully tomorrow. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.